Did you intend to be a musician as a career?
Not really. There was nothing there that would have suggested to me that this would be something that you could make into a career. I remember that we had a thing at our high school called Career Day, where they'd bring in professionals in various fields. And they would bring in a guy to tell us about careers in popular music. And as I think back on what he told us, it was not very valuable information. And it was not a school that they would encourage you to follow the path of a musician in any way, classical or whatever. So no, that wasn't my idea at the time. But you know, I always played all through high school, and those were the days when there were kids who were making like $12 a week pumping gas. Well, we could go out and make almost that much playing music in one night. So I thought, you know, this is okay. But our background wasn't such that anybody would have considered being a musician. So, you know, I just kind of did it because I could and I liked it.
And did your family support you in this? Did they think it was okay?
Not necessarily. No, that wasn't, they didn't really support me in it at all. And so that's why I never really thought seriously about doing it, you know. It's just something that was there that I knew how to do.
But at some point you got into teaching as a career.
Yes.
And you were still playing.
Oh, absolutely. I always played, but it was, you know, part-time. Well, no, it wasn't always part-time, though. Like, I'm thinking, well, there were some times when it was full-time and I was still teaching. In fact, when I first started teaching, I went to work with our friend Eddie Davis at a place downtown Chicago 5 nights a week, 6 hours a night, 7 hours on Saturdays. And I was making more money at that than I was teaching, but it was something that I thought, no, this isn't going to last, the playing. And I was right. So I never thought, I mean, it was always in the back of my mind, this would be great if I could do this and I didn't have to do anything else. But that wasn't the way it was, right? The same when I got out of college. There was a lot of playing going on, but a lot of it, you know, you just go down, hang in some place and then play for fun. Jam session, you might call it.
Yeah. And you were teaching high school English, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right. And I did that for, I don't know, 7 years, I think it was. Then my wife at the time and I bought a small motel over in Michigan. And my plan was to go over there and get a job teaching. But when I got there, I discovered that if you were a teacher in that part of because it was kind of a rural area, you are expected to coach something too. Well, that was nothing that I would be able to do. So, but then I found that I was playing over there, you know, in a little bar that I played weekends. It was close enough to Chicago that I'd run back and play there from time to time too. And that's kind of when I thought seriously about depending on music for a living. Because I wasn't making any money at this motel. I substitute taught over there for a while. I liked that because that was like you had all the freedom you could possibly imagine. You know, you'd go in the morning, keep the kids from tearing each other apart and the school apart, and then go home at night, and that was it. So that was kind of nice. But the music was always there. And it wasn't exactly jazz I was playing over there, but it was still like me in a rhythm section, which I guess, you know, would put it into that category.
And you said last night that you liked to be the only horn, you liked to play melody.
Right.
So that would have suited you.
Exactly. I enjoyed that. But at the same time, you know, that when I started playing with the Salty Dogs, I had already been playing with the first real jazz band I played with was a band called the Chicago Stompers. And in that band, I was Jim DePogny on piano, Mike Walbridge, and he was the guy that got us in it. Mike was kind of good at going around and meeting these older guys. And so there were the three of us. And let's see, the other people probably are names you wouldn't know. But it was a halfway decent band, better than halfway decent. And I had been listening to the Salty Dogs at that point, but they didn't know I played anything at all. They were still sort of at Purdue University. I say sort of because there really were two bands. The one that was at Purdue, and most of those guys would come to Chicago to play like whenever they came up there. But they didn't have any regular clarinet player. That's where I first heard Darnell Howard. Here's these college kids, although I thought they were adults when I first heard them. Turned out they were no more adult than I was, but that's all right. And here they've got Darnell Howard playing the clarinet. Now, I was never a record collector. My knowledge of old jazz was not that great, so I really didn't know who he was. All I knew was he could really play. And I loved listening to him. Then he got the offer to go back with Earl Hines out in San Francisco. And so, of course, he left the band, and that's when they got Frank Chase. And the first time I heard Frank, I thought, what the hell's this guy doing? You know, I was just a kid, and my knowledge of the music was pretty sketchy. But I listened to him for not long and figured this boy, he's pretty amazing. And he was, no question about that. You know that. In fact, you know him better than I do, that's for sure. But here's Frank playing like Frank, and here's the Salty Dogs blasting away, and it was not, fortunately though, those were the days when there'd be like one microphone, and the clarinet player would usually grab that microphone so he wasn't totally overpowered by the band, and so you could hear him. But then he left to go to play a joint called the Gaslight Club with Marty Gross. And that was a full-time playing job, 5 nights a week, which is what it was in Chicago. And it was Frank and Marty and a piano player, and I'm not sure who the piano player was. So the Salty Dogs are looking again for a clarinet player. Well, they had found out by that time that I played, so I got a call from the guy that was leading the band then, and went to play with him. I remember that job because he said, now we're going to feature Kim Cusack playing High Society, which I'd never played before in my life. But that was okay because it's not, I mean, people think it's difficult, but it isn't. It's more like an exercise almost. So that was my baptism with the Salty Dogs. And then I didn't really realize at the time that they had the Chicago contingent and the Purdue gang, because most of them were, both in both bands. But so I started playing with them. Never went to Purdue. I spent some time in Lafayette hanging around there after jobs, but I never went there. So, we did. And at one point then, Lou Green, who was a student at Purdue and became the leader of the band, when he graduated, he decided he was just going to bring the band to Chicago, because at that point, Walbridge was in the band, and I was in the band, and I'm thinking, I guess Wayne Jones was in the band by that time, and we were in Chicago. So we just, Lou said forget the Purdue connection, which was never an official connection anyway, and we started working, regular weekends in the Chicago area. We always had some place to play, it seems. And so when I moved to Michigan, though, things were kind of slowing down for the band. We had been playing in a place, nice place, but they decided they wanted to make more money, so they turned it into a gay bar, and that was the end of the Salty Dogs playing there. Then the next thing that happened, they tore it down and made it a parking lot. But there was that place. There is another place we played out in the suburbs called Paul's Roast Round, and Paul was a ex-Illinois state policeman who had the money to open up a pretty nice restaurant. I don't know why he was an ex-state policeman, but perhaps you can surmise maybe why he was, since he had that much money. We liked Paul. He liked the music. We always had a real good time there. In fact, he added a room onto this restaurant specifically for the Salty Dogs to play in. And we had a good time at that place. We had so much fun, though, that his wife made him sell the joint because he was having too much fun there. And so that ended that, but it was fun while it lasted. Yes.